Hello, I'm Doug Muzzio. This is the season premiere of City Talk. And the talk is politics. New York City and New York State style politics. And it's about the news and the news media. The winners and the losers. Mike Bloomberg on the stand. Andrew Cuomo in the stratosphere. Second Avenue subway breaking through. Crime climbing. Cops falling. Gerrymandering in Albany. Pandering in Queens. Blogging, editing, and pontificating. To talk about all that and more this week and next is Adam Lisberg. Adam is the editor of City Hall, The Capitol, and City and State First Read. Before joining Manhattan Media this past April, Adam was the City Hall bureau chief at the Daily News from 2008 to 2011 and a beat reporter there before that. Adam came to the news from the Bergen Record in Bergen County, New Jersey, and before that at the Burlington, Vermont Free Press. Adam, welcome.
Great to be here.
Congrats on, City Hall, the Capitol, but particularly City and State First Read. It's my first read.
That's the idea. That's why we called it that.
Okay, let's talk about City Hall News, the Capitol, and City and State First Read. You've been an editor for 5 months, and when you read your About page on your website, it says City Hall publishes monthly. It is targeted to the politicians, staffers, lobbyists, unions, and industry leaders who shape New York City and state politics and government. Are you succeeding?
So far, we seem to be. When I got there a few months ago, that is certainly our audience. That's the people we need to reach. We're not a consumer, a general readership newspaper.
You're an inside baseball.
Yeah, we're for people in the game.
Okay.
And it's for that, that's several thousand people in the city and the state who are into it. They trade on information. They all need to know what's going on. Either they're the people who are very inside or they're the people who want to know what the insiders are doing. And so for as long as the papers have been around, there's been this constant battle to, find out what's happening and get stories that are going on. But there's also a need increasingly to get minute-to-minute daily information. And what we realized was there isn't something out there that summarizes everything in the morning and gets people what they need, right from the get-go. That the people in this world, they have 7 a.m. breakfast meetings. They go into 8 a.m. seminars, and before that, they need to find out what's going on for the day. They need to get a summary of what's in the papers that morning, what news might have broken overnight, what things came up first thing in the morning, and it was a gaping opportunity that we were able to fill.
And you get it out real early. I mean, I'm up at 4 o'clock in the morning, but you get it out about 6, so you are the first read.
That's the idea. And this is a lot based on what I realized I needed when I was City Hall bureau chief at the Daily News. That when I woke up in the morning, I needed to know what the Post had, what the Times had, what I might have to explain to my editor why I missed that morning.
And you didn't want to go to their individual websites. You want it in front of you because...
Well, I had to go.
Yeah,
What I used to do was run down to the corner to get the final
edition
of the newspaper.
Okay.
But I realized we needed something that pulled it all together and had that day's schedules in it. And if we could also note what the weather will be at the top. I just want to know every morning, do I need to take an umbrella and close the windows?
And a little humor. You do birthdays, all kinds of stuff.
Put people's birthdays in there. It's a comprehensive roundup, and I figured that by dominating that early morning space, by giving people something where there wasn't anything before, we could make it clear that City Hall and the Capitol are the news organizations, not just the newspapers, but we're the news gathering group that you need to rely on for the
right. I mean,
game.
You go to the editorial pages, you go to all the papers. So what time do you get up and start this?
Well, we rotate who does the morning shift, but the morning shift starts at 5 a.m. You can go back to sleep after you send out the email, but you got to be up at 5 to read
so how
the
many
papers.
people actually do that? What's the nature of the operation?
There are 5 of us who put out the newspapers, we put out the email, we operate the websites where we have at least one story a day going up fresh. And we're tweeting all day long on our City Hall News account. And that's the nature of a news organization these days. You can't just
It's
put out a
everything
monthly
all the
newspaper.
time.
Yeah, and news breaks today on Twitter, and there's very few things faster
And you're
than
on
that.
Twitter.
Everybody's on Twitter.
Well, not everybody. I mean, there were a few of us
Nothing personal.
who just opened it up once, and that was enough. I mean, he's tired of himself thinking. How different is your daily routine substantively from what you did in the Daily News, and intellectually what you did at the
Well,
Daily News?
it's ironically, for all we're talking about Twitter and things breaking, it's a little more thoughtful, and I have a little more time to try to put things in perspective at City Hall and the Capitol than I did at the Daily News. Because at the Daily News, if the mayor's making an appearance somewhere, you need to go there
Right.
either, because you don't.
Right.
And if he says something about the Jets or the Giants, you have to quickly
Right.
write it up and get
Right.
it on the website.
And this is monthly, so you got time.
Right. So we have time to think and say, what are the real issues that are going on? What can we dig deeper into? What can we provide people that they're not getting anywhere else? And so it's nice to have that kind of opportunity. And frankly, it's nice to not be fighting for space in the paper against the Jets and the Giants and celebrity news.
Right,
And
right.
news
And you're
everything
controlling.
else.
I mean, you're the head of that.
I'm
I
the
mean,
editor. I
that's
can do
nice.
whatever I want. Yeah.
No, that's like a college professor. You got the light.
Yeah.
How does it fit in with the other blogs and news sources? I mean, Celeste Katz did a great piece when you moved from the Daily News to where you are now, and loving you and all. But she closes her blog post by saying that she's going to clean your clock. Now, what I'm seeing is, I read I read Daily Politics, I read Gotham Gazette. Those three together really are very symbiotic because you do different things at different times. And then, Bob Hart comes in with the itch a little bit later. So, yeah, it's not a zero-sum game here. You got to, in a sense, you got to read all of you guys.
Yeah, well, and fortunately, everybody seems to link to each other at the end of the day and around it. So if you miss what happened,
and everybody reads everybody else. I mean,
Yeah.
How much of that, as it did in print media forever, caused sort of this pack effect, this movement where I keep remembering the Super Bowl, I guess 2 years ago or 3 years ago, with David Patterson's fighting off allegations, and there's no allegations.
Right. I'll tell you, it works both ways. It's for good and for bad. It's for bad in that the pack mentality can, the herd can move stronger than ever. That if people are tweeting all day long about how Chris Christie, if he doesn't decide by Friday whether we're going to run for president, he's finished. You could make up whatever kind of rumor or something you want.
Yeah.
And when people comment on it and say,
and
yes, no way,
and who he's having an affair with.
Right. Yeah. It creates its own gravity.
Right.
At the same time, it's never been easier for somebody good, somebody thoughtful, somebody with great sources, or a fun writer, or a good analyst to get out there and get an audience. All you got to do is go online. All you got to do is create a blog in 10 minutes. There's a blog called The Brooklyn Politics.
Yes.
That we're very partial to. Colin Campbell, the guy who wrote it, just in his spare time. He moved here from California. Is fascinated by Brooklyn politics.
Yeah.
Created a website for free. Started calling people
and
writing things.
It's informative, it's insightful, it's humor.
Breaking news.
Yeah.
He's putting up his own redistricting
But you have to be
maps.
really interested. I mean, you have to be psychotic.
But someone like that, who, a
Who's
psychotic
player
political junkie,
right.
10 years ago, they would have said,
nothing.
great kid, go to work for the Queens Tribune for a few years, and then maybe the Daily News will hire you for the
And
Queens
it's too
Tribune,
slow.
and then you'll go
It's
there,
too
and then-
slow anyway.
Right.
It's too slow. Okay. Let's go to some of what's going on here. You've been going the last couple of days to the John Haggerty trial. Yeah. And the stories have been, whether you're reading the Post, the Daily News, the Times, who's on trial, John Haggerty or Mike Bloomberg? Mike Bloomberg, in the opening statement from the attorneys, was eviscerated yesterday. Talk about the case, the evidence, Cy Vance and the charges. Let's talk about this as sort of a microcosm of a lot of New York politics.
It's a fascinating case because a lot of the evidence is not in dispute. It's all about how you interpret it.
Right.
Whether there was a crime, who the victim was. John Haggerty, longtime Queens Republican operative from a longtime Queens Republican family. In 2009, he and his brother Bart, also a longtime Republican operative.
And they're trying to take over the Republican Queens County organization.
Right, yeah. Once you dive into Queens Republican,
please. It's a morass. We love it.
So John wanted to buy out his brother's share of their late father's home, the family home, beautiful home in Forest Hills Gardens, beautiful neighborhood.
I know it.
Yeah. At the same time, he was volunteering for the mayor's 2009 reelection.
And didn't he work for the mayor in 2005?
He worked in 2005 and refused to get paid. Somebody at the time, another faction in Queens, said, "Oh, Haggerty's only working for the mayor for the money." And Haggerty said, "No, then fine, I'm not going to take any money."
No, he's building up the case for down the line. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So in 2005, Haggerty ran they call it the ballot security operation. On election day, you send people out to the polls,
and you
look for
challenge.
troubles.
Yeah.
Well, it's a contentious issue because do you challenge? Do you just watch? Are you
Right.
there to make sure there's no funny business?
Or do you suppress?
Right.
That's the argument.
Right. And the argument has been in the past, Republicans have used voter suppression techniques to keep down minority turnout at the polls.
Yep.
Why you'd want to get involved in that kind of mess in New York City and whether
And that particular
concrete
election with
examples,
that
yeah.
much money and everything else. Come on.
Right. So in 2005, John Haggerty ran the mayor's ballot security operation through the Republican Party.
Right.
The mayor made an enormous donation to the Republican
Well, he's
Party
bought
and to
or
this-
rented the Republican Party, the Independence
Yeah,
Party.
you can donate huge. There are campaign limits, donation limits in New York State. There's a loophole called housekeeping party.
Right.
So
And
if
where
you
you
give
can
money to a
dump-
housekeeping account, it's supposed to pay for general party operations,
And
so
it's
that they
bull.
can focus other money
And we'll
on
see.
elections.
And this is the charge that Haggerty's attorneys are making. Go ahead. So
they use this housekeeping money for a Republican ballot security operation,
Right.
which, you know what, is kind of defensible.
okay,
because
no,
there's
no,
a lot
no,
of
no.
people who
oh
run as
no,
Republicans
it's
in the state of
legitimate.
New
Come
York.
on, come on.
In 2009,
I wouldn't trust those Dems. Are you kidding me? No, I'm sorry.
in 2009, Haggerty ran the same type of operation, but he did it instead through the state Independence Party,
Right.
which fields almost no candidates.
Right.
Most of them are, they do cross-endorsing and things like that. But
In many ways, it's a rent-a party. But go ahead.
yeah, but it's sort of much more of a fig leaf to say that when the mayor gave $1.1 million to the Independence Party, that it was for an Independence Party operation,
Right.
not for a Bloomberg operation.
Right.
In the process of doing that, $750,000 or so of the mayor's money,
Of 1.1 million.
of the $1.1 million, goes from the mayor to the Independence Party to a company that Haggerty sets up to Haggerty, and he buys out his brother's.
Right, and he doesn't
house.
set up the company until after the election.
Right,
Wait,
right.
Okay, go ahead.
So the question is, was that theft? Now Haggerty's attorneys say no. There's
And he
no
took the
victim.
money and bought it, the
Right.
piece of the house.
The-
Only spent $30,000 of the 1.1 million on ballot
Right.
security.
And Haggerty's argument is the mayor got ballot security. I mean, they haven't said this explicitly, but they seem to be building a case to
Right.
say, well, if
got
there's a
something-
90% markup, how is that any worse
Right.
than Kevin Sheehy making $500,000?
Okay,
for a
okay.
campaign?
But the big charge is what? What's the narrative?
So the Cy Vance's team says that this was theft and it was money laundering by the various transactions
Right.
that it took to obscure the source of it. Haggerty's team says there was no victim and no crime because when the mayor gave the money to the Independence Party, he wasn't buying services. He was a donation to a party. They were free to take the money and throw it out the window, have a big party, do
Because if
whatever.
he was buying services, he violated the campaign finance laws.
Exactly. That under that loophole that lets you give housekeeping money says that you can't use it for particular campaign expenses. When a candidate files to run for office in the city, you file a document that says, I promise, as part of the city's clean election system, I promise that all of my campaign spending will come through my account.
And this didn't. And
this
it did
did
it
not.
intentionally, and it was out of Mike Bloomberg's checkbook. So the defense is arguing this, number one, there's no theft. In other words, that Cy Vance mischarged the entire case, which would be really a black eye for Cy Vance because he's batting not too good.
Right.
He's going back to the minors, if he's in baseball. That it's Mike Bloomberg. So in a sense, even though Haggerty's on trial, you listen to the news reports, you read the blogs, and you read the papers. Excuse me, the mayor's on trial, and this could be, in newsman's terms, not only a story with legs. This could be a millipede. This could have 1,000 legs.
Well, you're going to see. You've already seen Kevin Sheehy, formerly deputy mayor, on trial. You're also going to see testimony from Patricia Harris.
At the trial, not on trial.
Go
ahead.
Yes. Patty Harris, the mayor's first deputy, and probably his loyal, most closest, most
Who runs the
longest-serving
Bloomberg
aide.
Foundation?
She runs that. She's.
Excuse
his
me,
right
I don't know
arm.
how that got past the
And she's.
conflicts board. But go ahead. I'm sorry. I'm just talking to myself.
and she's going to be talking. She's going to have to take questions from Haggerty's lawyer under oath about what happened.
So is the mayor
of the campaign and the mayor, and
excuse me, they got immunity. Why do you want immunity? I'm just a simple guy from Queens. I'm not a lawyer.
As a matter of course, I'm told I don't cover the criminal courts
They
regularly.
waive the immunity, public officials.
Right.
So what? So can we assume? I know it's not. You can't assume, like even a Fifth Amendment plea, that the person's guilty. But excuse me, you're laughing. Is that an affirmation or what?
Even if I should say, even if it's a clear violation of the campaign finance law, you don't go to jail for misreporting your expenditures.
Oh, no.
Fine is
No.
$10,000.
Nobody expects Mike Bloomberg to be behind bars.
Right. But so to get back on track,
go.
The Haggerty's
No,
lawyers.
you're saying I'm taking you off the track? I'm running the show.
There's many tracks.
Oh, no, go ahead.
Go. So Haggerty's lawyers, in their opening statement, in their first lines of questioning, they seem to be saying. They seem to be trying to put the mayor on trial. They're painting the mayor as this big, vaguely sinister force in New York that he has money to throw at all sorts of people.
And he buys everything.
They buys everything, and his staff, they wear all these hats and move from the city hall to the mayor's company to his private foundation to his personal staff. And
wait a minute, this sounds like the truth. Not necessarily that absolves.
Like I said, the facts aren't in dispute.
Right.
It's how they're interpreted.
That's exactly two different narratives.
And portraying the mayor as this malevolent force who buys whatever he wants and who's able to overturn term limits, that they're portraying him as an unsympathetic character. And they seem to be wanting to make this a case of Haggerty being I won't say railroaded, Haggerty being attacked by the forces of the most powerful man in town.
And the other, that probably, and from a legal sense, that he was mischarged or he was charged with a crime when in fact the crime didn't exist. All the defense has to do is to convince one juror that there's reasonable doubt that there's a violation of the particular statute.
Yeah, they have to convince one juror that John Haggerty didn't do anything wrong, but the most powerful man in town feels like he's out $1 million and is angry at him.
Right. Okay. Let's move on. I mean, this is going to continue. One of my favorite things is the winners and losers. In one sense, in a sense, it's a little silly, but everybody reads it and everybody's interested in it. I love it because of the sort of the snottiness of it all. We need this in New York.
Every Friday morning in our email, and even before we were doing City and State First Read, we would put up our list of the winners and losers, the 5 winners and the 5 losers who stood out most in the news in New York City and state politics that week. And I'll tell you a secret.
Go ahead.
When I came to City Hall in the Capitol, I thought, this is the stupidest thing in the world. I bet it's just a bunch of people sitting around on a Thursday afternoon coming up with we don't like that. This was funny. Let's make fun of this person. Why would I care what those people say?
Sounds like college.
I get there, and
hopefully
everybody...
You're not smoking any weed or
it's
anything.
there's horrible ventilation.
Oh, okay. You'd die for
that. It would. And I get there, and in fact, that's what everyone does. We sit around on a Thursday afternoon and kick it around in a meeting. And everybody loves it. Everybody pays incredible attention to it. It's the same as lists. We do a lot of list issues. People really get into them.
Yes, the top 40, the youngest. I mean, all kinds of stuff.
Which I think are silly because I see them from the inside, and I know how we handle these things, and I would trust them as gospel.
So anybody who's reading this knows exactly what you're doing. They could be doing the same thing. Just set up their own blog.
Yeah,
but okay, let me read two. I love the losers. I mean, winners are okay, but losers are my favorite. I guess this is 2 weeks ago. Anthony Weiner. This is after the disaster in the 9th Congressional District. You destroy your career with a bad habit of sexting explicit photos to strange women. You leave, not that they're strange, that they're strangers to him. You leave behind a seat that can't stay in your party without your charisma. Oh, you paved the way for your party and your president to be humiliated by a man who hates what you stand for. And the very worst part of it is this: New York Post photographers will stalk you for the rest of your life. Godspeed, little Wiener. Nasty. Nasty. Now, wait, I just have to do one more of these. And it seems like I'm picking on Mike Bloomberg, but I can't help it. This is this week's. The mayor, blah, blah, blah. Livery cab bill in trouble, blah, blah, blah. Deputy mayor living in Connecticut, blah, blah, blah. Haggerty trial disclosures, blah, blah, blah. But did you see the leopard print couch in his living room? Question mark, loser, exclamation point. This is pretty harsh stuff.
You know, we all take
Are
turns.
you personally responsible
We all
for this?
take turns writing the different items, but I'm flattered that you found 2 that I wrote myself.
Ah, could I tell?
It's funny, there are weeks that we have far too many winners and have to really scratch around for losers,
Right.
and weeks when we have vice versa. But what we do try to do is not to always focus on the big names. We try to find
Oh
people
yeah.
behind the people.
Oh, absolutely.
yeah,
I mean,
we-
I could
you know,
I could go
you
through
could-
this.
yeah.
I mean, if you go to John McEnany, I mean, how many people know that?
Right.
Byron Brown. I mean, you know who's Byron Brown? Gary Ackerman, maybe. Gatemouth. I mean, who's Gatemouth? He's a
Yeah.
blogger. Evan Stavisky. I mean, talking about inside baseball, Evan Stavisky is a principal in the Parkside group who ran Wiener's campaign and widely perceived as having blown it. So you get into
That's the idea.
the nitty gritty of it.
For our audience, they don't need a scorecard on whether Mike Bloomberg or Andrew Cuomo had a good week or a bad
Right.
week. They can figure. They know that already.
So you're giving the real addicts,
Yeah.
the people who need a multiple fix, a fix.
That's what we're trying.
Let's talk about 2013. I know it's early. It's insane. There's a presidential election. We're electing, I guess, 2 U.S. senators, right? We're using one.
12.
2012. Gillibrand's got to run for her own term, not the
Right.
unfinished. So there's one run.
And a new Siena poll suggests that she's vulnerable, which I think is surprising to a lot of people. She was coasting very nicely.
Yeah, and the polls. I mean, in the beginning, she had a lot of rough spots. She was
Right.
flip flopping
And then
like
she
a
seemed
beach
to be
fish.
emerging. She's in Vogue.
Right.
She's in all these.
I guess
she's getting-
is there a something going on here? I mean,
Yeah, I mean, the
something's
national
happening
mood
here. What
is
is?
throw out everybody.
Yeah,
good, bad,
is that
different,
is
sick of
that it?
everything.
I mean, is this a mad as hell electorate? Was that the
I-
9th congressional district? Was that a Norman Beale mad as hell vote?
Some of it, yes. Some of it is the 9th district is weird, and there are a lot of weird
Right, and
factors.
then also, I mean, we could do the 9th district for a couple of hours. I mean, Joe Crowley, the
Right,
Queen's
right.
boss, blew it.
Right.
I mean, for a number of reasons. Vito Lopez didn't care. You wrote
Right,
about
yeah,
that.
yeah.
He's worried about the assembly race. He might lose an assembly seat. He's not worried about the congressman.
Yeah.
And you guys do. That's what's nice about what you guys often do, and that is really bore into
That's what we're trying
the
to do.
substratum, the muck.
Yeah. That's why there's, like I said, it's not a general demand. 8 million New Yorkers are not waking up every morning needing to know.
That's right.
That's
That's right.
consultant
But
did
there are
what
a
in the
couple of
9th
thousand
district.
lunatics out there who's dying for
And
this
we
stuff.
want them to read us.
Yes,
obsessively.
and okay, and presumably how do you know they are?
Well,
How do you know that they're reading you?
That the beauty of online is
You can hit the
see how many
hits.
clicks you get and where
Okay.
they're coming from and how long they're spending on site. And all
What
that
about the
things like
hard
that.
copy, the print edition?
The hard copy, it's a mix of paid circulation of copies that were people a subscription that we mail out. A mix of there are state officials, et cetera. We send them free copies.
Yeah, I get a free copy.
Oh, you do?
Yeah,
Oh, we
no,
gotta
don't
work
put me on the subscription
We got to.
list.
All right, we're gonna.
Yeah, no,
all right,
me
see,
and my
you're
big
gonna-
mouth.
Yeah, see?
Okay.
And we also put stacks of them out near City Hall. Near
Oh
the
yeah,
Capitol.
well I mean
Yeah.
I don't know where they are now, but they used to be in room 9, right outside room 9.
Right, yeah, they're still in City
which
Hall.
is the press office at City Hall. Okay, why don't we start in the brief amount of time we have now and then continue for next week's conversation. 2013. You've written quite a bit about it. You've written about Chris Quinn. You've written about Bill Thompson, Stringer, de Blasio, all of them. Talk about the 2013 mayoral field, if you will, as it looks now and prospectively.
Well, among the Democrats, it looks a little too crowded.
Oh, man. I mean, okay, so we've got, you do it.
All
Who's
right.
out there?
So you have Chris Quinn, City
Right.
Council Speaker from Manhattan, came into office as a liberal lesbian activist and is now trying to make herself as, and I think is in large part actually, sort of a classic Irish politician.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And
She's both the beautiful young woman and the ugly old hag in some senses in politics.
I would never say such a thing.
No, I know. That was metaphoric. And you wouldn't say because I'm irresponsible and you're not. Go ahead.
However, she's never actually run outside of her district.
Right.
She's seen as the favored candidate of the mayor.
Right.
There was this hope among the business community and others that they said, oh, we need another Mike Bloomberg, someone who's not part of this traditional New York political clubhouse machinery who can come in and be another clean sweeping broom, and they seem to have acknowledged that that's not going to happen, and so you see everybody else asking real estate for money, asking the business world for money, and they're sort of
So
deciding,
you're
well, I
saying
guess
that
we
the
can
game has changed, the zeitgeist has changed, if
Yeah.
you will.
Oh yeah, that there's a great thirst in the corridors of power for another Bloomberg, even though they don't always love Bloomberg.
Oh, okay, we're going to have to continue this. Okay, what do you mean that there's a thirst in the corridors of power? That sounds like something out of a novel here. Go ahead.
That Mike Bloomberg is someone who's not going to hold up a development project because he has longstanding ties to so-and-so.
Oh, so you're talking about corporate business, elite, establishment power, whatever that means.
Yeah. That in Mike Bloomberg, they see a business guy, someone they can deal with. Remember, business people don't necessarily always want the best possible deal that they can get. They want stability first and foremost.
Right.
They can live with a bad tax scheme or incredibly complex regulations. They don't like them, but they can live with them as long as they know what they are. And on Mike Bloomberg, they feel like this is a guy who doesn't go off on crusades, who, although they'll scream and yell about bike lanes, they don't think that Bloomberg is susceptible to craziness that affects other politicians, and that he's someone to work with, and they wanted somebody else.
You have to stop. We only have 10 seconds left. Wait, stop for next week. My thanks to you for joining me today and for joining me in next week's show, where we'll continue with the 2013 campaign, and then we'll turn our focus to the state and the state politics as well. So thank you. Hello, I'm Doug Muzzio. Let us know what you think about this show. You can reach us at CUNY.TV. When you get there, click on the bar that says Contact Us and send your email. Whatever it is. Thanks, no thanks, obnoxious, do it. Send it.